Hey, in this video, I'm going to give you 10 surefire ways to get fired from your sysadmin job as an IT professional. Right after this. Hey, thank you for watching my video. I always appreciate it when you +1 share, like, and if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. So I just came across an article. I think it was a wonderful article titled 10 Security Mistakes That Will Get You Fired. And it was written by Roger Grimes. I'll have the link to that article down below. And I wanted to kind of cover these with you because I think there's some really good information here and kind of give you my spin on it as well. So let's get right to it. Mistake number 1, and that is killing business functionality. Essentially, IT pro sysadmins, this definitely happens, and we all know somebody has happened to, and that is closing down a critical business information system in order to, take care of an intruder, some type of breach, or virus, malware infection, whatever. Well, quite frankly, the CEO and the executives of the business are going to point out to you in no short order that business operations are a first. They don't want to close down critical business applications in order for you to do your thing. The bottom line is, I think in their mind, they justify the cost of losing lost business if it should not exceed the cost of getting rid of the bad guy. And they will point that out to you very, very quickly. Number 2, don't mess with a CEO. Personally, this happened to me. Years ago, I used to be a GoldMine Software reseller, partner, VAR, whatever you wanted to call me. And I was doing work for a software company out in Phoenix. Part of the process was installing an updated version of GoldMine on the CEO's computer. I was given the okay by the office manager. CEO wasn't there. The next day, I almost lost the contract because I was in the CEO's office without her approval. I didn't really mess with her. Everything worked normally. She just didn't like the idea that I was in there without her or an executive of the company being there. However, that's not the only case that can come up. I know people that get overzealous with things like web filtering, security, that kind of thing. The CEO expects access to anything they want. They're the ones with the keys to the kingdom, not you. Number 3, ignoring critical events. The author brings up the case in point of Target. Now, Target's security systems did indeed detect that a Trojan had been installed, but it showed up in the event logs. Now, if you've not really looked at a Windows event logs, these things can be terabytes, of data in these things, and it's no joy to go through these logs. So what happened was that in Target's case, the event logs were misinterpreted as not, or as being unimportant rather than being critical. The bottom line is make sure you have a way to determine a critical event and be able to respond to it. If not, you could find yourself on the unemployment line. Tip number 4, reading confidential data. Common sense, right? Just because you're a sysadmin and because you have the ability to look at, emails or files or whatever, you shouldn't. It's wrong and, immoral and illegal. Don't do it. You deserve to get fired if you get caught doing this stuff. And I know people that brag about being able to do that. Number 5, invading privacy. The author also gives the case of a hospital sysadmin who learned that a celeb may be staying at the hospital, ran an SQL query against the database, located the patient who was a celebrity, looked up the medical records, and shared that with friends at the hospital. Do you think they deserve to get fired for that? Hell yes, he should have got his ass fired for that. This goes right back to what I'm saying. Just because you have the ability to do something doesn't mean it's morally or legally correct to do. Again, that is a surefire way to end up on the unemployment line. And the mistake number 6, when I think a lot of us are really guilty of this one, and that's using real data in a test system. I go back to my CRM days where we'd install a new CRM system. We needed we needed data to work with to test things. So we'd go from the existing system and dump real data in. But you know what? I never gave the privacy issue any thought. That's real live data, people's records as I was flipping through. Now, I didn't use that information. I didn't even write anything down or retain any of it. But the bottom line was I could have done that. And if you got caught accessing private information, even under the Even if you are doing a test build, you can end up losing your job over that. Okay, mistake number 7, and that is using corporate passwords out on the web and in general. You may have users out there right now that use the same login credentials at work as they do on Facebook. You know, the bad guys, typically, they'll post, or not typically, but sometimes they'll post real users' names out in public. Well, companies have been smart enough to start looking at those, find an employee, and seeing they can access their Facebook account, their corporate credentials. And guess what? Quite a number of times that they can. So that if you're not informing your users about the risk of using their login credentials at work, out in the web in general, then yeah, you could probably end up on the unemployment line. This one for sure happens a lot, and that's opening too many big any holes. What are we talking about? How many times you install an application and it doesn't work? And one of the things, suggestions come up, maybe it's a configuration issue with the firewall. So you run to the firewall, log in, go to the port, set it to always and allow, right? The old any rule. Let any traffic come in. Ultimately, you go back to working on the app, it finally starts working. How many times you go back and set the router or the firewall back to a deny rule? Not too often. Guilty as charged, done it myself. But in the event there was a security audit sometime, and you see a firewall with all these any rules, you could end up on the unemployment line. Mistake number 9, not changing passwords. Boy, I don't know how many times I've been in especially in the small business or mid-sized company, I've seen the same services password being used all around the place. The system administrator's password, everybody knew what it was in the department. It's just crazy. Yeah, users absolutely hate having to change passwords every 45, 90 days. Okay, so sysadmins have a more complicated password. Well, guess what? They don't even change it themselves very often, or if at all. Not a good plan. Make sure that you have updated password policies in place. If not, you could end up on the unemployment line. Number 10, crying wolf. Okay, so one of my top selling products is a program called LandGuard. And what it is a vulnerability scanner, patch management tool. And it's kind of funny, but a lot of times, first time somebody runs a vulnerability scanner and they see all these things in red, the report come back, they freak out, you know. These look like major severe problems when reality is most of them are fairly benign. Kind of learning what's a significant threat and what's not. But you got people out there that every threat they hear and read about is a huge problem. They got to deal with it and all this sort of thing. They cry wolf too much. So what happens when you cry wolf a lot is that ultimately when there is a serious threat, you're not going to be taken seriously. May not get fired over it, but you're certainly not going to get promoted. So just remember, not every threat out there is significant, meaningful, and cause to go on a 5-alarm type of reaction. But I said 10, but I'm going to give you one more. And that's the God complex. The network is not your personal kingdom. You do not, just because you have the ability to make life rough for users and play games with passwords and account lockouts and all the other stuff, I mean, that's just wrong on multiple levels, but I know people that's done it. You know, they've went in snooping around on a particular person they didn't like at work or what have you, or even did like and try to get their home phone number or cell phone number and ask them for a day. I mean, I've heard it all. Over the last 20 years, I've heard a lot of really dumb crap. And there was an IT admin that actually went through human resources files to locate the cell phone number of a secretary that he wanted to ask out on the date, or I guess text her. Yeah, you deserve to get fired for that. It's not your personal playground. It's not your place to go out there and order equipment that the company doesn't need in order to learn a new cert and just to beef up your resume. That's not right either. Okay, so that's 10 surefire ways to lose your job as an IT pro. So I want to hear from you in the comments down below. Bruce Naylor, take care.